Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artists Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more. The South Coast Artist Index podcast is brought to you in part by Heavenly Spirits, who invites you to celebrate the art of life and creative communities everywhere. Learn more at heavenlyspirits.com.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier with another podcast episode. And as you know, every guest is a really important guest.
Thank you.
And yes, this guest is probably very important compared to the other important guests that we've had. And you'll find out why when they introduce themselves and spell their names. It's like an old 1950s TV show.
Sure.
Guest?
Hi, I am Marcus Coward. You can spell that Marcus Coward. It's okay to say Coward. I don't take it personally.
We'll talk about that.
It is my name. And I'm running for school committee for public schools in New Bedford.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
I think this is absolutely a first. For a while there, in the previous 200 plus podcasts, I was always trying to get like a first something. Just you needed something to get people's attention. But that's excellent.
So this is your first political candidate or politician?
I think so. I can't remember one.
Okay,
so
making history.
So I would assume that it's never happened before.
Sure.
I've had I've had like a bunch of categories. First cookbook author. In the beginning, I could tell you all of the podcasts when I was doing I was around number 51 or something like that.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm drawing into a blank, and I've got a good memory. So let's start off with your name, because I'm sure people bite their tongues and they don't know how to approach it. And is that your street name? Is that your real name?
It is my birth name.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I am a junior, actually, but yeah, it comes from my grandmother and her family from Virginia. Mm-hmm. We have a large family of Cowards, and yeah, my grandmother Mary Coward, my dad Marcus Coward, or he goes by Mark. If you meet him, please call him Mark and not Marcus. That's me.
Yeah.
And so he's senior and I'm junior. Marcus Coward Jr. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the origins of the name?
No. So that's something actually my family is really interested in, which we just haven't done yet, is have some kind of ancestry test, because I'm African American, so descendant of slaves. And so our ancestry is obviously muddled,
Yes.
And so we're not sure where our history comes from is country-wise, but yeah, I've asked my grandmother multiple times too how far she can trace her ancestry, and she just knows her grandmother was born in Virginia, and that's where we come from.
Yeah, Virginia is a kind of an interesting place because the plantations there.
It's a big slave state.
Produced people more than cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just had a flash. I knew, like, Coward. I mean, it sounds familiar. I know that name. Noel Coward. Very, very famous actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't say I'm familiar.
British, I believe.
Sure.
So,
interesting.
Then again, too, I'm interested in all kinds of those crazy things. Like, names get tweaked in time. A lot of people who think they're Irish are actually French.
Interesting.
Because their families came from France. No, their families came. How's it going? It's kind of screwed up.
So there's an Irish-French exchange.
There is, yeah. The Irish came to France when one of the tragedies of government there occurred, and their names got all screwed up. Case in point, one of the world's most famous wines, Haut-Brion, right?
I'm not much of a wine drinker.
Well, it's a very, very famous label.
Sure.
And it's actually the French pronunciation of O'Brien.
Oh, my goodness, really?
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah, the more you know, exactly, yeah. So now that we got that out of the way with.
Actually,
school committee. You go ahead.
Yeah, just you might be interested.
Yeah.
So when I was in the Army, one of the things they offered us in basic training was we could find out more about our names, since you're just talking about it. And so I got it mailed once I was done with basic training, and the name Coward comes from England, from the combination of cow herder. Coward.
So he's a
herd.
cow, or my ex-deceased mother-in-law was British, so they dropped their H's.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So just some interesting etymology there.
Yeah. And it's something I just heard the other day I didn't know. If you don't have a middle name in the military on your name tag, it'll say NMN. Yeah, NMN. So it'll be Marcus NMN Coward. No middle name.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the things you learn, right?
Sure.
What made you decide to run for school committee?
So I'm from New Bedford, and there's a few reasons for why I wanted to run for school committee. It wasn't... I remember when I was in 8th grade and going on high school tours with my dad, and we would get into these pretty heated political debates. I've been interested in politics and history since I was young, but I would always just get too passionate when arguing. And that was part of just being a young, argumentative, inquisitive kid. But I also cared a lot about these different topics when it came to human rights and social issues and just how the government worked. So I always thought that I would be too passionate of a politician to actually be effective. Fast forward to a couple of years ago, I think it was actually last year, when there was a bid being proposed, a business improvement district in downtown New Bedford. And I was just walking by downtown, and there was this protest going on in front of City Hall. And I stopped to see what was going on. And I met a lot of people and just got grouped into that protest and just follow them and to learn more. And I was a rather outspoken person at that age. I was 24 or 25 actually last year, and I ended up speaking at a couple of the events, and people just said, Marcus, why don't you run for something? We need more people that we can champion, who we agree with and who's from New Bedford for the people and who's well spoken and has that confidence. And I said, sure. So I'm getting into law enforcement. That's my career path of choice, but in thinking about the long-term path of law enforcement, I always thought it was a dream of mine to become sheriff of Bristol County. And so that is an elected position.
Right.
And so I thought it would be down the road where I would eventually have to get into politics to get that. But it wasn't something, I never thought of being mayor or city councilor or even school committee up until this point last year.
Because school committee is, I guess, is the proverbial stepping stone to all other positions, right?
It's very much the lowest rung of elected officials locally. And so that experience and having people say you should run for something was a big part of why I'm running. But also, this is in 2023 now, a couple of years of how, so that was how I got inspired to get into politics. But what inspired me to get into schools was in 2023, I got out of the Army of 2022 in August, got my life together for a few months. Now, the beginning of 2023, I get an email that a faculty member from the middle school I went to, Nativity Prep, also downtown, someone passed away. And I remember this person. I haven't been back to that school in almost a decade. I graduated in 2013.
Yeah.
But it really hit home for me. And her name was Clara Carvalho, this small beam of light. She was just the heart of our school. She passed away, so I went to the wake. And then I ran into the headmaster, who was an old teacher of mine, Jay Goldrick. And the dean of students was an alumni, for a few years older. They said they were short-staffed, and I just said I wanted to... This event just inspired me to get re-involved in my middle school. So I said, I just want to volunteer however I'm able to. I had a job at the time, but I had some free time. So I volunteered, being an after-school tutor and helping coach the flag football team. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And then the summer went, and they offered me a job as a paraprofessional the following year. I said, sure. So I left my job, became a paraprofessional. And it was eye-opening to see the difference in landscape when it comes to what students are dealing with and going through right now, from when I was in middle school in 2013 or in high school to right now, especially post-COVID.
Right.
There is a very different landscape that children are going through.
Our daughter is still affected by it.
Absolutely. There's still some really real effects.
And, kudos to Nativity Prep, two young gentlemen who lived on the street when I lived in New Bedford before I moved to Portugal, the Lawrence brothers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Caleb Lawrence was in my class.
Yeah, and Zachary was at Maritime. I mean, one of the tenets of the school is that students and parents go to school here.
Yes, absolutely.
There's no drop off your kids and hold your breath until they come back.
Big on family engagement.
So if you notice the difference at Nativity Prep,
Yes, that's my thinking exactly.
Like,
yes, then I can only imagine what public schools would be like.
Right.
Not because of the behavior issues that oftentimes are brought up or stereotyped, but just because of the sheer class sizes in school sizes, that if the school of 50 is very different from when I went there, then I couldn't imagine what the public school kids are dealing with. So now being inspired into politics and having actually been inside of a classroom, I thought, why not? And then I started to learn more about the landscape of what school committee would actually look like. I found out that 3 people, so for this year in 2025, there are 3 seats going for re-election, and 2 of the school committee members are stepping down. And so it just kind of seemed like a perfect storm of me being involved in school and politics, and there's a couple openings. I said, why not? I shot my shot.
Why did they step down? Is it because it's getting really hairy? Or, I mean, I don't assume that instructors, and I was associated with the New Bedford public school system going way back, working for the superintendent of art, and also as a substitute teacher, and also as a field consultant for junior achievement for about 9 years.
Sure.
And also as a substitute teacher at the back then infamous Keith Junior High.
Sure.
Which, let me tell you, that was brutal back then. And there was a lot of reasons for it.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that I find amazing, that people still haven't figured this out. Sidney Poitier was in Blackboard Jungle, for God's sakes. That was produced in what, 1950-something, 1960, right on that.
Sure.
And they were having issues then. And then they go back and say, oh, it's the nuclear family has been destroyed, and a bunch of other things. No, there's so many pressures on youth, to use that term, and just using that word, you can't help but flash on my cousin Vinny. There's so many pressures. There are more opportunities to get off track. There are more opportunities to get involved with people you shouldn't be involved with. I mean, there's a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
So but some of the classic cliques still exists.
Of course.
The greasers, the preppies, it goes on down the line. They probably added a few over the years, right?
Sure.
So school is a reflection of society, or is society a reflection of schools?
That's a great question. I think students are, of course, hugely influenced by their parents and what they see on TV. And I feel like the adults and what we see on TV media is very much a reflection of society rather than the other way around. I mean, it's very much a relationship that works hand in hand. And it's hard to know, is it the chicken or the egg? But I would say that there are systems in place that affect people, that in so many ways it's hard for those people to affect those systems the way that the systems affect the people. So I would say that the people, and thus the adults, and thus the students, are reflections of society, I would say.
Yeah, I think one of one of the major factors, because I always ask, especially artists, when was that moment? Can you remember that moment? You know, did it happen early on? Did you always know that you wanted to be an artist? Or, you know, I've mentioned it several times. This guy was in advertising. He just woke up one morning. I think he said he was 33 years old, and he said, I'm going to be a painter.
Sure.
That was it. And the guy is in 6 galleries.
Wow.
I mean, those kind of stories like blow your mind. I mean,
sure.
You know, you hear these motivational speakers who tell you you're supposed to do all these little exercises and such, and this guy wakes up and says, before he even puts on his slippers, I'm going to be a painter.
Sure.
Right? That's one thing. The other thing, too, is that comparing and contrasting Europe to the United States, over there, oh, so what do you do? I'm a painter. You're a painter. Have I seen your work? Is it in any books and magazines? Are you hanging in any galleries around town? You know, that kind of thing. Here, oh yeah, you make any money doing that?
It's all about the money.
It's all about about the Benjamins, and it's gotten really, really crazy. The emphasis on MCAS is absolutely insidious. The idea that art or the arts were recreational and not core is also mind-blowing.
Absolutely,
You know, Armin Marchand just passed away. He was at New Bedford High School. He developed that incredible theater program that they have at New Bedford High School. Came in and, you know, the Festival Theater at the Zeiterion Theater. This is just one individual. And there are a lot of people who can point to him and say, hey, if it wasn't for him in this program, you know, where would I be now? I'm thinking back on to art, the fine arts. It's changed a little bit. When I was working for Ray Basalin, who was the superintendent of art for the New Bedford Public School System, that's when they went to the itinerant art teachers. No longer was there an art room, but there was, I used to call them the bag ladies, because they would come in with a shopping cart.
Sure.
Because it was a way of utilizing that classroom for other things, and then he'd come in and set up in a class that wasn't being used for a subject.
Sure.
And he was dumpster diving for applesauce cups and all kinds of other stuff from the cafeteria because the budgets were so bad.
Sure, yeah.
When you look at the educational system as someone who has gone both through public and private, and then, you know, we got to throw charter in there, because a nativity prep, is that a charter or is that a private? That's a different...
It's an independent, closer to a private school, very much not a charter school. It's the students don't pay anything, but every student is essentially sponsored by a donor, and that's how the school survives, is just by donations.
What's with the backlash to charter schools?
I think that ultimately charter schools, one, are selective and exclusive, and take away from funding from public schools. I think is ultimately the biggest issues that a lot of people have with charter schools. And champions of public schools very much like to try and support public schools because they're open to everyone, and charter schools in a lot of ways work against that.
Well, this is a lottery conspiracy and all
that too.
And there's the what are those chits? The vouchers. The vouchers, which, you know, if you go back to the history of that voucher program wasn't done to benefit those who have not. It was to benefit those who have.
Yes.
And so again, we have a lot of, I think a lot of things. What's going on right now is like a lot of these Band-Aids are being ripped off, you know, and not slowly, and exposing what's underneath.
Sure. And also just, oh, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So, and also just the comparison between charter schools and public schools, that public schools can be and are really good, but I feel like a lot of people will compare charter schools and say that they're better than public schools just generally, when that's just not the case. And that there are so many amazing students that go on to Ivy League schools or become very successful graduating from public schools and Bedford High. So I think that dichotomy of saying one is bad and one is good is really detrimental to the reputation of public schools.
Yeah, I think there was a Hispanic lady once in a conversation, and she said one word: imbécile. You know, it's jealousy. And not in a cold, hard slap in the face kind of a way. It's you have public school teachers who are struggling like crazy to do the best job that they can. Yet you've got charter schools that are pretty much getting what they need, what they want.
Sure.
Again, there's all sides to these stories and such. But my main interest will always remain in the arts, and I really believe that the arts should be core curriculum.
Absolutely.
And that is very, very important. And I really believe, and I've mentioned this so many times, one more time is not going to, we need I believe it should be a junior and senior. This middle school thing, that's a whole other subject for another day. But a junior and senior high school for the visual and performing arts. There are so many kids out there. Yes, they're being picked up by programs like Dream Out Loud and Third Eye, which is phenomenal. Thank goodness for them. But, even if there was a curriculum like that, now Third Eye and Dream Out Loud wouldn't just be ancillary, it would be additional too.
Sure.
So you're done with school, you go to this program, boom. I mean, what a great day you've had as a student. Parents at one time are like, what are you doing that for? How are you going to get a job? It's like, well, I at one point I wanted to go back and get my doctorate in art history because I had 15 credits from when in my master's when I went for my master's, and I didn't know that they evaporated. They expired.
Oh my goodness!
So I
didn't know that happened.
I contacted my art history instructor, who was the toughest teacher I've ever had in my life, and I just kept going back for more punishment from him because I learned more from him than somebody who was just like, yeah, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
And he said, I can give you the names of 6 PhDs right now, Harvard and Yale. And they've been out of school for almost a decade, and they can't get a job. So if you want to go blow $60,000 around, that was back then, $60,000 on your PhD, I can't stop you.
Sure.
I was like, holy moly. So all these things are all tied together, the economy, neighborhoods. And speaking of neighborhoods, that's a subject that goes sideways too. Why do some neighborhoods have better schools than other neighborhoods?
Yeah.
When everybody's paying in, nobody's checking where the money's coming from. They're just checking the money's coming in.
Yeah.
And so not to give you a platform, because that's not what the podcast is all about, but what the heck? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's very unfair in that property taxes very much should not be coupled with the funding for schools. And that's a little bit out of the hands of school committee. We don't have direct influence or decision making when it comes to that decision. But I would love to use our influence and platform to try and advocate for that. I mean, that might even be like a countrywide issue, but if New Bedford or Massachusetts can do something about that, I am all for it, because it's so apparent that I talk to parents and teachers who know that there's a difference between quality of schools, and if they live in one neighborhood and then end up having kids, they would much rather move to a different neighborhood to make sure that their kid goes to a school that they would approve of. This is a real reality for people in New Bedford.
I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen with when I was working way back when with Bobby Forts, who was a force and a half in the neighborhood. We had this after school program, and I would say Bobby could talk the wallpaper off of your office wall. I mean, he was just phenomenal. And to see these kids, using all the euphemisms and such, the at-risk kids, was crazy. But the best of them had a mom. It just seemed that was just the case. These single moms who were the driving force. They were the driving force in their children's lives. And people don't understand that, and this is only my opinion, people don't understand that it's not like dropping off your kids at doggy daycare. I mean, you have to be involved beside the dropping off and picking up.
Sure.
You have to be involved besides selecting the school. But you've got two parents. If you're fortunate enough, they're both working. Sometimes they don't see each other because of alternating shifts or opposing shifts. The family rarely ever gets together. Holidays aren't what they used to be. They're not the big thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody's too exhausted to do anything. So, Bill Clinton used to have that little thing on his desk, like, that said, the buck stops here. Harry Truman had the thing on his desk that said, the buck stops here. And Bill Clinton had one that said, it's the economy, stupid.
No.
Okay? And my theory is, it's the culture, stupid. Change the culture, change everything else.
Absolutely.
Paul and I were on a bus in Portugal, and the bus driver was very apologetic, and he said, I'm sorry, I just called. I better go pick up a bunch of kids at the high school. Is that okay with you? Because if not, I can drop you off, and there's another bus coming along. It's like, I don't care. So we're waiting for like this swarm of bug-eyed kids and stuff, and these kids come on, and they're excited. They're kids, the high school kids, but they're not rude or anything like that, and they're not doing anything stupid. And they go to the back of the bus, and all of a sudden I hear this riff. There's this kid playing flamenco guitar in the back of the.
Oh my goodness!
And they're all.
Wow.
It's like, oh,
that's amazing.
And he's like, well, if this is too much for you, I'll let you. I'm like, are you kidding me?
We're enjoying it. Don't stop. Yeah.
What a concept to have live entertainment on a bus, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, it's cultural because I'm half French Canadian, I'm half Portuguese, and in the Portuguese side, there's something called vergonha, which is shame. That goes a long way. Not only do you shame yourself, you shame your parents and you shame all of your family. So you better not do anything stupid.
Care about your reputation.
You have to care about your reputation, which is super, super important, and it does matter because it's all about networking. And you were born in those days. You were born into an already created network.
In village and community.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes that was good. Sometimes that wasn't good.
Sure.
Trying to break out of a network is harder than breaking into one.
I bet.
That kind of thing. So you have your own
podcast, TV show.
Yeah, because they used to call those vlogs and
sure.
What are they called now? They're just a broadcast or video podcast or yeah.
And so just before I even go to that, thank you for bringing it up. As you're talking about culture, I think that a culture, especially for young people, that is so prevalent and is degrading us getting more involved and is keeping us negative towards everything, is something I came up with, that people can't focus on success when they're focused on survival. And I feel like so many young people are focused on survival because they can't buy a house, or they had kids when they were young, and the wages aren't keeping up with the prices of everything. And politics in the country has become so polarizing that people are just so bogged down by all these pressures that the culture has become so toxic, and that it's not at this point built or focusing on fostering growth. It's built on fostering survival and trying to make it to the next day, and focusing on the money so that you can pay for all of the bills and things that you feel like you can't afford.
Yeah.
And so there is just such a big difference, but I totally agree that if we try and change that culture, which is one of my missions, trying to inspire people to pursue their passions, talking about my show, and that if we can change our mindset, we can change our culture, and then we can change society.
Right, and that was your qualifier as a producer. To be here, because the people have probably been listening up to now, like, when's the art stuff coming
Sure.
in? But also teaching is an art.
Sure, absolutely.
Which a lot of people, totally forget. I mean, Okay, this sounds totally nuts, but our dog Snickers, who we got her when she was a puppy, and she was, she's a puppy, like imagine the terrible threes, and then she, as she got older, she started to get the edge off a little bit, but we decided to take her to obedience school. Okay. And two things happened. Number one was, as the instructor said, this girl loves to work.
Okay.
There was this incredible pride that she had listening to this guy. And this guy was a teacher. Okay, not an obedience trainer. He was a teacher. I love the way this guy thought because he taught the dogs through their perspective.
Interesting.
He knew what it was like in his head to be a dog.
Okay.
And the thing that really got me is at one point he had diabetes or something. He said one morning he was, popping the pills out of the bottle, and one of them nearly jumped out of his hand onto the floor, and his first thought was like, oh my God, because the dogs, you drop anything on the floor, it's gone.
Yep.
And he said, I don't know what it would do to them. So he came up with this system, thinking like a dog, what to do in that situation, and he had 6 dogs in a class. All of them behaved themselves with each other.
Wow.
And they were all, and I've seen classrooms like that where kids are totally lit up.
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
lit up. And unfortunately, by the time they get into high school, that light starts to dim down. It was like Famous Amos. I've been looking for that poster for the longest time. Famous Amos, he passed away, I think, just last year. Famous Amos from Famous Amos Cookies. But he was also a motivational speaker.
Okay.
And he had this poster of a series of light bulbs. And I don't know what direction they went in, but they were all little boxes. And you see a very bright light bulb. And then the next frame, it's a little dimmer, all the way down to the bottom. And then it finishes off with, it was only an idea. How ideas can be destroyed, just like the life sucked out of them.
Yeah.
Right? So that was really important. So what made you decide to do your own video podcast?
And so it's interesting that and I'm going to answer a question.
Yeah.
It is interesting that you bring up teaching as an art form, because I didn't realize until I did this that public speaking / interviewing is a talent, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, or an art form in some ways, and I didn't see it as one until people who are close to me, or even strangers, were very impressed by how I was able to interview people. And that's my show. It's called Wake Up New Bedford, where I have a variety of guests and interview them so they can tell their story.
So people take that as a, not to use the word slur, as an insult. Wake up New Bedford, like, hey, what's the matter with you? Do they take it that way, or is it a wake up to a new day, wake up?
And that's how it's supposed to be. A lot of people see it as a morning show.
Okay.
Because it's wake up. It's not a morning at all. Usually I film in the afternoon, but that's beside the point. But the point is I named it Wake Up New Bedford because I feel like there is this negative stigma in a lot of ways towards New Bedford, whether it's people inside the city or outside of the city, where they think of New Bedford, they think of crime, they think of poverty, they only think of whaling. But there's so much more that New Bedford has to offer. I think it's such a beautiful, vibrant city, diverse city. And so I think that if people woke up to how beautiful of a city this could be, then we would reach our potential. And my aim in a lot of ways, whether it's with politics or with the show, is to make New Bedford the second biggest city in Massachusetts, right behind Boston. I think that we have that potential.
I think we're number 3 or 4. I think it keeps moving back and forth between Brockton, I think it is.
And not even just in population. I just think like in reputation and tourist destinations that
Well, I think it has. I mean, I don't know what happened. I've been trying to talk with Jonathan Darling from the mayor's office, and I spoke with the mayor himself. And he's like, "You really want me on your podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why?" And I said, and not in a nasty way. I said, "Why?" I said, "Well, because I remember the week when you were elected, that the buzz in the creative community amongst my friends was, have you seen his office?" I was like, "No." What's up? He's got like floor to ceiling artwork. This has got to be a good sign.
Okay.
And there was a point, like when I left for Portugal, people would say, you could the smell, the negativity, the smell of negativity was so palpable. So the moment you're coming down 140, you could pick it up right away, that bad vibe.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore. I mean, I don't know why they say this is there's some, and you got to be really careful on some of these Instagram posts, these TikToks or whatever.
Sure.
We're the fourth worst crime-ridden city in Massachusetts or whatever. And numbers don't lie. People use numbers to lie. I'm not saying it's a perfect city.
No, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
But there is a new vibe here.
Yeah.
And it's not a vibe that was created by one faction. It's not a vibe that's controlled by one faction.
Sure.
It's more diverse.
Yeah.
And there's also this incredible pride. I mean, I remember the first time I went to an AHA 30-something years ago, and I was a little like, yeah, right, okay. I mean, I when I worked at Freestones way back when, that was the only light on downtown. I mean,
Interesting.
It was nasty. It was nasty. That if you ever watched It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, where Bedford Falls turns into Pottersville, and it's, everything is crappy and crass and so on and so forth. And the city has so much to be proud of.
Yes.
In so many different categories.
Yes, absolutely.
There are, and then, in some ways, I want to, as the Artist Index, I want to reach out to the, let's call it the Mesoamerican, South American communities, because they're almost hidden. Back in those days, with a single mom, I lived in several sections of the city.
Sure.
We came up because we had the white privilege to do so. And now to go into those neighborhoods and see, I speak some Spanish and such, and see all this stuff going on. But what I see is they revitalize these neighborhoods.
Yes, absolutely.
And they revitalize them in the best way that they knew how, because not everyone can afford transportation. Not everybody can, so now there's more sense of community.
Yes.
Because one of the weirdest things, and I'm getting off on a little tangent, but one of the weirdest things between New Bedford and Fall River is that Fall River is a city of neighborhoods.
Sure. Yeah.
New Bedford is a city of sides.
The city of size.
Ends, rather. I'm sorry. North End,
Sure.
South End, West End.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean, right?
Yeah.
Well, because we're like Florida. We're a peninsula, right? It's a terminal city. You drive in, you drive out. Fall River, you drive through, right? So there's a lot of that mentality. But all of that aside, there's this incredible vivacity. We have the Cape Verdean community has been here like forever and a day, and they they finally recognize there's no other word for it. And now we see some of the Mesoamerican communities coming up. There's so much culture. There's so much. I mean, one of the things in culinary, for example, in Fall River. The weird thing is that there were actually 4 types of cuisines, but 3 generally. It was Lebanese, Chinese, Portuguese.
Huh.
Okay.
And what a mix.
Yeah, I know. And what's the 4th? Fall River-ese. Fall Rivers, and that's something I want to explore someday. The culinary heritage of the mills, which we don't have anymore. The pork pies, the whoopie burgers, all kinds of hot cheese sandwiches. And unless you're from Fall River, know anybody from Fall River, they're looking at you like, what?
Yeah.
And there's even a linguiça and chorizo line.
Okay.
That Atlas Pizza in Fall River, which is off of Bedford Street, on the corner of Bedford and I forget that cross street now. It's been too long. That's the last place that you can get a chorizo pizza. From there through Westport all the way up into New Bedford, it's linguiça. But
Sure.
What's the point? The point is about the culture.
Yeah.
And the celebration of the culture. And the school used to have that, there was the Acushnet Avenue Alternative School, and then when I was working for Ray Salem, they had that program that just finally moved out of the high school, the old high school, which, what the heck was that called? It was an alternate, it was for at-risk kids or...
Yeah, are you referring to Whaling City?
Yes, yeah. And that's great and good, but why did we get to that point where those kids, why did we have to create a program for those kids? What is it? Is it them? Is it their parents or lack of parents? Or is it society? What is it? Because that all reflects in art.
Yeah, in programs and lack thereof, and opportunities. Yep.
Exactly. My friend Henry, who was the happenstance co-founder of the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club. It's called the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club because he and his friend Harold were sitting in a diner in Detroit having breakfast, and Harold had just retired from one of the big three automakers. He and his wife had accrued a good sum of money, and they were going to move into another house, and they wanted new art, new furniture and stuff, and Henry happened to be an art dealer and a antiques dealer. And so Henry would bring samples to breakfast and stuff, and people come by, hey, what are you guys doing? Before you know it, there's like 20, 30, 40 people in there.
Wow.
And it became this breakfast club, but the Fine Arts Breakfast Club. So it's an absolute phenomenon. And then he talked to me, he said, Ron, kids who grew up in the hood, they thought the only way out was through performing arts at one point, sports, and that was pretty much it. It's either you're good at basketball or you're good at singing or you have some musical skills. He said, but you know what's happening now? It's art. They see art as a way out because they see, and I think that's the point that was sort of lost on Henry at that particular point in time. They see Titus Kaphar. They see Kerry Marshall. They see Kehinde Wiley. They see these black artists who are at the top of their game.
Sure.
Okay? And they're like, that's what I want to do. But he said, unfortunately, the motivation for the cash is one thing, the talent is another thing. So we got to go through a lot of stuff. He says, in the school system, we could really use some assistance with giving kids a lot more of a visual education, because a visual education is important. Adrian Teo, who was the dean of CVPA at UMass Dartmouth, once said, everybody thinks that artists, are trained, we are trained observers, but it's about noticing certain things, but it's really about pattern recognition. You can see patterns in how things are created. It's just not nuances of color. It's just not nuances of line. It's about pattern recognition. Like the old duck, duck, goose. It's like that rhythm. It's duck, duck, goose for so many choruses, and then it's going to be duck, duck, goose, horse. You know what I mean? And he said they need that. And so I guess this is a bit of a soapbox for you. As a school committee member, candidate, do you see anything currently in the public school system that has to do with the fine arts and visual performing arts that either needs to be addressed? Let's.
So I think that they're doing a better job than what's been done in the past, but they are trying to focus and really put a spotlight on the arts, because I think that everyone can agree that so much of the lack of student engagement and the absence problem or the lack of attendance problem goes to the lack of student engagement and the lack of programs and opportunities. So I think that they're doing a lot in music when it comes to the student orchestra. I think they're doing a lot in terms of theater, but also in band. That's something that they're really trying to focus on.
Band is incredible.
Yeah.
People would always laugh at the band people, but you know, I mean, I've been out of high school for well over 50 years, and those band people still talk to each other.
It's a close-knit.
It's like, well, what do you expect? They have like 6 hours of practice every bloody day.
Sure.
They were on the field before the football team hit the field. They were on the field after them. Now, you know, on my feet, I've been getting like, you know, all of the big schools, Texas A&M, and I mean, some of these marching bands, show bands. It's just, I mean, who would ever think you need 20 tubas?
But they're extraordinary.
Yeah, but it's this incredible discipline, it's this camaraderie, it's all this other stuff. I mean, this syncopation, this people in lockstep is really, really, really important.
Yeah.
You're still an individual, but you're part of something greater than yourself.
Absolutely.
You know? So that's a good point with the band. As far as the visual arts, I don't know what's going on. I lost track of who was teaching. I can't remember if I know Gary Rigo, a friend of mine, unfortunately passed away. He was at Stang at one time. I taught with him, Jim Economist at Normandan, and I think Gary was at Normandan for a while as well. A lot of these people move around. Do you know anything about who is running the high school programs or the middle school programs?
No, so I'm not an educator myself, so I haven't been inside these institutions besides that Nativity. But, and along with being a candidate, so I don't know a lot of these people personally.
How about Nativity Prep? I mean, how important was art in that curricula?
Extraordinarily.
Really?
And so, especially when I was a student there, that we'd have these social studies projects and social studies fairs and science fairs, which is you get this poster board and you're spending months researching and decorating this poster board, and it's a huge focus. And I still have a project that I did when I was in 6th grade maybe, and so it was for a social studies fair, and I researched Alexander the Great, and I made this 6 or 7 foot spear along with we had. So there's a couple things, but so I made this spear with someone and the shield that I still have.
Right.
So very important. But then we also had a choir that no longer is there anymore because the choir instructor left. But we ended up singing at a Paw Sox game. That's like a core memory for me. Yeah, we sang the national anthem. So it's something we really took seriously, along with we had students join this barbershop group of these older guys, and then I ended up performing with them. Yeah. Amazing. That really gave me an appreciation for singing. And
they have a society. I was trying to remember the letters for it, Spina or something like that. It's kind of cool, yeah.
And so there was the visual arts, there was the singing, but then there was also theater, where we had our instructor, Mary Warden, who just passed this year, and she was leading our theater production. And those were the first theater productions I've ever been in. I went on to act a lot more in high school and do improv, but we, along with theater, had something called Mock Trial, which partnered with UMass Dartmouth, where we got an actual judge, and then we had a jury to where we were acting out this trial.
Right.
So there were so many different avenues where we could express ourselves, visually or any other way. So it was a huge importance, and that gave me a real appreciation to know that the arts should be a core subject and should be taken really seriously when it comes to school.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the impression of the instructor on the students, because most of the books that are banned in red states were books that was on my summer reading list, and I didn't realize how, to use the word that's bandied about too much, how liberal my teachers were. But then again, back then when you're like 14, 15, 16, and you've got a 25-year-old teacher, they're like ancient to you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, reading all these different books, I think the autobiography of Malcolm X just came out. Hot, Soul, and Ice was another one. Death Be Not Proud. Jesus, it was just, there was just so many, and I know a majority of those are like on book, So, yeah, I don't want to say our politics were tweaked, but we were given a wider horizon.
Absolutely, yeah.
We were given a much, much wider horizon. So, and that's one thing. Everybody talks about education. Everybody talks about the buildings. Everybody talks about the curricula. But the teachers are in the room. They're like, hey, hello. And unfortunately, that's gotten crazy. When I was teaching, I think the Department of Education was a one-story building with maybe 10 people working in it. Now it's like this huge building, I don't know how many stories tall, and they're, I'll get in trouble for it, but what the heck. Binding the hands of these teachers, and you have to do this and you have to do that, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And I worked with people who were administrators who couldn't hack it in the classroom, so they went for their admin certs. So now you have people who don't have the classroom experience. It was a mess. And in teaching it, kids junior highs back then was, I needed your spear and your shield.
Sure, yeah.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane back then. Does a better public school system make for a better city?
Of course. And so I'm also on another podcast called the New Bedford Podcast with Steve Richard, and it's a part of the New Bedford Guide. And so we put out episodes, we try to do it weekly, and just this past week, we got a chance to sit down with Superintendent Andrew O'Leary. And he was just explaining the demographics of the city, and I'm forgetting, we might have 13,000 students in the New Bedford in general, in all the schools in New Bedford, and I think 10,000 of those go to New Bedford schools, public schools. And so, absolutely, the students are a big part of the population, but also are the future. Right. And so if we can focus on the student experience, making it warm and welcoming, but also make sure that they have a positive outcome and have good results, and
give them a reason for being there.
Absolutely, and give them opportunities to succeed later on in life through these public schools.
And realizing that not every kid, it's not cookie cutter.
No, not at all. If we have diverse students, we have to have diverse teaching.
Right.
And so, absolutely, if we focus more on education, make that a higher priority, then our city will only benefit from it humongously. When
my mother remarried and we left New Bedford and we went to Dartmouth, I was part of the historic class. We were the last graduating class of the Elmer M. Poole School, which was a junior high school. This is before middle schools only came into the forefront, probably 69, 70, somewhere around there. And a lot of the kids that were in the high school that I remember, their parents were business owners, and they had properties in Dartmouth, summer properties. So they were allowed to go to the school because their parents paid taxes in Dartmouth. So it was almost like a country club school. So it's a really, really, really interesting kind of thing that you're getting involved with. It's a story as old as time, and I wish you the best of luck. And your Wake Up New Bedford podcast, let's just focus on that for a bit before we wrap this up.
Sure.
What was one of your most memorable moments?
I've had a few. I got a chance to talk to the principal of Oak. I got a chance to interview Andrew O'Leary. I got a chance to interview several high school students who are still in high school or have just graduated. And maybe One of the most memorable experiences was when I got to interview this young kid, Kazan, and he might be Kazan Tavares, who's a grandchild of the Tavares group.
Yeah, I live next door to their aunt. Yeah,
great. So talking to him really gave me such an insight in what young adults are going through. Right. I think he's 22, maybe 23, and so I'm 26. But even just in that few-year gap, there's such a difference when it comes to outlook, when it comes to vocabulary, when it comes to energy. And so it really inspired me to try and inspire and relate to and learn from and understand what people younger than me are going through, because they truly are our future. And so I guess something else that I do want to bring up is that with this campaign, I'm really trying to make history in being the first of my generation to be elected to an office in New Bedford. And why it's so important to me, why I win, it wasn't even my original mission was just to get on the ballot to show other young kids that, hey, you can do this. Right. Politics is cool.
Right. Holding a sign's one thing.
Yeah, but be a part of your community, get involved.
Right.
And so I'm trying to make history to inspire those young people like Kazan who are, I mean, he's out of high school, but people who are in high school, people who are in middle school, to know that being involved in your community is cool, being healthy is cool, being informed is cool, and that there's just, they're such interesting people, and like just young people are. And I always aspire to communicate and relate to more older people because I think they could be more intellectual, but young people have so much to offer. And I think that that's really what that interview and several of those interviews taught me, is that young people think a lot and they have a lot of valuable ideas. Right. And if we give them the chance and the opportunity and empower their voice, that we have a lot to learn from these young people as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I think the last young person I remember running for school committee was Eric Pope. He was a standout in high school, and do you
remember Josh Amaral? He ended up winning. He was the youngest actually in New Bedford history to get elected to school committee.
Then again, there was I had a dropout period, so to speak.
Sure, that might have been in 2014, maybe something like that.
And but I think it's a great thing to become involved. Some people are really kind of, and I feel that you're a natural for it as well.
Thank you.
There are those people skills. There is this insight as well as this. What's the word? I don't want to call it oversight because that sounds. It's not an appropriate word for this. It sounds negative, but you have a broader view of what's going on out there versus a very microscopic view of. It's amazing what people will do with a very little bit of information.
Sure.
And think that they're holding the banner of justice, truth, justice, the American way, and they're just like screwing everything up on as they storm through the room.
And can I add something to that?
Sure.
So talking about a broader view,
right?
It is going to sound very deep, but these are phrases that I try to live by. And if anyone can take away something besides me trying to inspire the youth, it can be these two phrases that I just see as the meaning of life, honestly. And it's really given me this perspective to try and live a positive life. So first is a phrase from Gandhi that I added my own twist at the end. Be the change you wish to see in the world. I added, with love and honesty always. That is coupled with the second phrase. It's a Jackie Robinson quote, and it's on this bench downtown New Bedford. It's this marble bench that's...
Is it an Abolition Row?
No, it's diagonal from City Hall, actually.
Oh, really?
And so it reads, your life has no meaning except the impact it has on others' lives.
Wow.
And so when I combine those two together, be the change you wish to see in the world with love and honesty,
right,
along with impacting others' lives. And that's, your life has no other meaning except the impact it has. So it can have a negative impact or positive one.
Right.
But if you move with love and honesty, your aim will have to be a positive impact. So that's what I try and do. I try and positively impact the people I see, my community, society at wide, and to move with love and honesty. So trying to be honest about who I am. You know, I'm a person with faults who's made many mistakes. I mean, everyone has.
You got to make more.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to make plenty more. But to try and be honest about it and to learn from it and not to run from your mistakes, but to turn your losses into lessons.
Yeah, you know, once burned, twice learned.
Yes.
And if you don't learn that way, then the issue is is kind of apparent. Yeah.
And then it's going to be hard for you to grow if you don't learn from.
Yeah, if you shrink away from everything because of a bad experience.
Yes.
This is fantastic. If you win the seat,
yes,
what would you do? And that could be like go out and buy a steak, or it could be jump up and down, or whatever. If you do win that seat on the school committee, what would you do?
I'm gonna let the young people know.
Yeah.
I'm like, we can do it, people.
Yeah.
Everyone, like I said, I'm 26,
yep.
So many people my age, maybe a couple years older, but so many people younger don't care about politics for so many reasons. When it can go down to focusing on survival rather than success. It could be because they're young parents. It could be because they feel like their voice or vote doesn't matter because they're apathetic to the government or politics in general. So I want to show them you can do this. That, again, being involved is cool. Yeah. That's what they want to see, that they're following these different influencers, celebrities, because that's what they think is cool. I don't want to be a celebrity by any means, but if that's what it takes for them to care about my story and for them to be inspired by it so they can be a positive influence to other young people, sure, I'll be the healthiest, most positive celebrity in New Bedford for these young people. Right. That's my aim. And so if I can also try to relate to these young people as well and advocate and empower their voices. One of the huge things that I'd want to advocate for, besides responsible AI usage and policy, which I think that I have a unique perspective on because I've kind of grown up with this, is to allow one or possibly two student representatives to have an active vote on school committee. That's something that's been brought up before on the school committee, but it's been shot down.
Almost like ombudsman.
Sorry?
Ombudsman, I think it's called. They represent the students on the school committee. They don't have voting power, but they're there to say, hey.
Well, so right now there is one student representative from New Bedford High who is like that, who doesn't have voting power.
Right.
I think that it would honestly benefit us to have young people with voting power.
At least three. This way that they don't feel confined or constricted. They have obviously some companionship.
Sure.
And they present a front as well.
And so yes, I think that, and it would also create a pipeline for young people to have an aim saying, maybe the first step for them, instead of it being school committee, could be being the student representative. Right. And that could be their gateway into politics, and we can start creating more young leaders. Right. Because when I go into these different meetings, whether school committee or city council, I'm usually the only person in their 20s, sometimes even, in their 30s, in these meetings. I want to change that. I want to show them that you do belong here. Your voice does matter, and you have something to contribute.
Right, and that's the myth. I don't belong. I have no power. I have no say-so. And you just start getting very down on yourself, and then you start just letting stupid things happen to you, or you start doing stupid things.
And disconnecting from society. Exactly. Just thinking, I'm just going to fade into existence because no one cares anyway. We do care.
The whole video game generation that nobody really speaks about. They live on a different plane, a different level.
Absolutely.
They've got a skill set that is kind of crazy. That people don't like. Well, what can you learn from video games? Well, I've got a grandson who works with us on the weekends, and he can enter a building, have never been in that building, and he I don't know how he absorbs the space in his brain, but he knows exactly three-dimensionally where he is in that building.
Sure.
It's like, do you know where the bathroom? Yeah. Or we were using a man lift, and he's like, what is this easy? Beep, beep, beep. Never used one before. And he's like, well, what does that got to do with anything? Well, again, as an instructor, you have to see where your the strengths of your students
Yes.
are and their weaknesses, and you have to speak to them in a language that they understand. And I had high evaluations. I was quite successful because I knew what my learning disabilities were. I used to have College Now from UMass that I could always tell those students because the first class, the first session, and I could see them hanging back, and I could see the hand behind the back. I could see a little blue slip of paper back then. I don't know what they do now, but I knew right away that they needed a signature. Well, this went on for several years, and then I got called into College Now, and they said, "We want to speak with you." I was like, "Why?" "Well, you know why we have this program." "Yes." "Well, all the students that we've allowed into your class, that you've accepted into your class, they do quite well in there."
Wow.
Like, "Oh, are you going easy on them?" "No. It's just I can speak to them in a way that they understand because my brain works like theirs."
Sure.
It's the kids that was the valedictorian in high school who sometimes crashes and burns in my class because they have eidetic memory. Read, remember, regurgitate. What kind of education? That's a skill.
Sure.
That's not education.
Now, how old were you when you were in that position?
Let's see. I was in my 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Really?
Yeah.
And so you just feel like you have maybe either a youthful mind or you just have this uncanny ability to relate to young people, you feel like?
Well, it wasn't until recently that I was professionally or formally or whatever with ADHD. I knew I was different from, than all, artists, that kind of thing. And everybody expected artists back then to have blue hair and, black nails, fingernails.
Sure.
And that wasn't me. I was too straight.
Yeah.
Because I went to Catholic schools, so it was button-down shirts and wool pants, that stuff. But I knew I was like different, and I saw things differently, and I saw patterns and such, and I always felt not right, not out of it, and then neuro-linguistic programming was really, really interesting. How people are visually, auditorially, or kinesthetically attuned to certain things.
Sure.
And not in all cases, but you traditionally, in using gender stereotypes of the day, women were more auditorily responsive because women listen to each other. Women hum to their children, sing to their children. There's that, you remember mom's voice more than anything else, and men, it's more visual. See, I made the plan. See, look at that, stuff like that. And that's why there's always a clash in certain students.
Interesting.
So you had to make sure that everything all went together. And as a painter, when I left doing all this abstract work and started doing my socially conscious expressionist work, people see things I didn't even notice, and they're like, "Well, what are you thinking about this?" It's like, well, this woman had her 2 children sold away from her, and I wanted to know what it was like in her skin. I wanted to know what she could smell. Was it cut grass? Was it dirt? Was it mud? Was there a breeze? Was there a hot sun on her back? The horses that pulled the wagon, was there manure on the ground? I just wanted to, that entire, and I did that with a painting of my father, and it was the most, it was like, I called it a deep dive, and all of a sudden I understood things, because the spot that he was standing in the photograph that I was using as a reference point, which was a pivotal piece of work for me, it was halfway between this and figurative work. Man, I knew everything that was going on. Everything. I knew why his head was tilted, because the train in the valley was going by, so that means it had to be around supper time. I could smell the grass because I mowed that grass with him when I was a little kid.
Wow.
So, again, having that kind of skill set, but when you're like in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, people are like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you catch your ball?
They don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it, is you were able to understand the differences between the students and realize every student is unique and celebrate those differences rather than think that they're lesser than or think that they're struggling because they don't understand. And I think that that's a huge thing that I'll be able to bring to the table is celebrating people's differences, not expecting students to be the same, but as I said before, we have diverse students, so we need to have diverse teaching styles and diverse ways of thinking. And to really understand and celebrate each student for who they are and not who we want them to be.
Yeah, let's make teaching an art again.
Yes.
Or allow it to be an art, because that's an insult to teachers to say it the other way. Allow it to be the art that it is. Wow, Marcus, this has been fantastic. I'd love to have you back after the numbers come in, win, lose, otherwise.
Sure.
Let's see, because we start, as we have to be defined when we're writing grants, and so on and so forth. We're not just an arts nonprofit. We're arts and culture has a much broader array of subjects for us to look into, because culture's people.
Culture's people.
Yeah.
And so I guess, to bring it back to the arts, please, for anyone, check out my podcast, Wake Up New Bedford. I put out episodes weekly, a part 1 and part 2 throughout the week. And we just have a variety of guests, from business owners, real estate agents, to artists. Yeah,
the filmmakers, the guy who's going to be editing this podcast.
The filmmakers, to students, variety of people. So check it out. It's on YouTube at Wake Up New Bedford.
Okay, and that guy, by the way, is Ryan Nunes. He's probably going to cut this out.
Absolutely.
But anyway, folks, thank you so much. Marcus Coward, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Ron, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And remember, take care of yourself and be kind to others. Bye-bye.
To learn more about the South Coast Artist Index, visit theartistindex.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Be the artist you believe you are, and let's take care of each other out there.